If you want to be a part of the conversation before it happens here on YouTube, click that link in the description to join the free Courtside Financial Discord. What's going on, everyone? My name's Obi, and welcome back to Courtside Financial, the podcast where we talk about business and technology. Today, we have a special episode for you guys. We're going to be kind of spinning the block, if you will, on the Forseven licensing deal with Nio allowing Forseven to license their technology. We've got a special guest joining today. So I'll let him join, and then I'll give him a proper introduction. Hey, Marty, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. So let me give you a proper introduction. Everyone, Marty is a Nio bull. He manages several Nio social media groups. He's an investor and a CEO of a privately held tech company that focuses on technology integration. So he's pretty knowledgeable about Nio, and that's the reason we're sitting here today. So hopefully we have a great episode today, Marty. I know I'm excited. I hope you are as excited as I am.
Good to be here.
But definitely ready to go. And before we get started, I just kind of want to set the agenda, let people know the direction that this video is going in, what we're going to be talking about, things that you and I will be mutually addressing. So to set the agenda, we kind of have like 5 points that we want to talk about today. Number one is the CYVN Nio share deal that occurred with the second round back in December of last year, 2023. We're going to do an introduction to Forseven and the market that they play in. We're also going to talk about the Middle East and why they are investing in foreign automakers rather than building their own. I think I have an opinion on that, Marty. I'm not sure if you do, but we'll...
I'm not necessarily. I think they are going to build their own. They're just going to be getting some help from outside sources.
And then the last two topics that we'll be talking about are the benefits of the licensing deal for both parties, Nio and Forseven, and then the market implications that it has. Basically just saying, are investors pricing, is the market pricing this news into the stock right now as of today? So
no.
Short answer is no.
Just a little disclaimer. I'm not involved in any financial business. I'm not involved in a bank, stocks. I'm not actually a trader. I am a Nio long. I'm very interested in several EV companies that I have investments in. I'm not a day trader. Don't have any information that's going to help any day traders. I'm basically here to help professional investors looking at the long picture and looking to make major profits, not 2%, 3% at a time, unless you're dealing a million shares and you could afford to make trades 1% at a time. That's fine. But the rest of us, we work. So day trading is not what we're doing. But we're looking to make the kind of money that Nio longs made back in 2020, and in my opinion, that time is getting very close. Where are we now? One of the major things that's easy to misunderstand about Nio is the investment that CYVN has. CYVN is the wealth fund of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, UAE, extremely wealthy fund, managing over 300 trillion in assets. So they went to Nio, they came into Nio late in the spring. I'm not going to be exact dates. Their first excursion into Nio was to come in with a $1 billion investment. They made that $1 billion investment. Needless to say, that investment did cost Nio investors dilution. It quickly was reflected in the stock price. Further on down the road, CYVN comes back again and invests another $2 billion into Nio. Now they hold 20% of Nio. So they're not really investors in the same way that Bailey Gifford was. Bailey Gifford, they made their initial investment in 2023. They invested $1 billion, and the offer from Nio was that they, as long as they held on to their shares, they would be able to get 2 seats on the Nio board of directors. That was the original deal. Okay. It was $1 billion in, and they got 2 seats on the board. Okay. Fast forward to winter 2024, and they're back again. And this time they come in for an additional $2 billion USD. And now they actually are purchasing 20% of Nio with 2 board members at Nio. So a lot of influence. Again, they're a little bit different, or a lot of bit different than Bailey Gifford. Bailey Gifford held about 5% of the Nio shares. I don't believe they ever had any voting power whatsoever. If it was minimal. They certainly were not on the board of directors. So now we move up to spring of 2024, and suddenly the name Forseven comes out. And this is where, actually, let me back up to the investment of $2 billion. $2 billion investment, $3 billion investments do not come for free. Mm-hmm. With it came certain conditions from Nio, but also came for investors. It was clearly dilution. So we're not going to kid around about that. There's a lot more shares out there. We were 1.6 billion shares a year ago. We're now at somewhere in the area of 2.1, 2.2 billion shares. Keeping in mind that Tesla has over 3 billion shares out. So
what do you say to investors that are pretty negative about both rounds of those deals between Nio and CYVN in regards to the dilution?
The first thing I would tell them is it takes money to make money. And bringing in investors like that is a lot less money than borrowing at today's interest rates. So borrowing at high interest rates is not good for the investor either. It's not good for the stock either. When you have an investor coming in with this kind of money, there's a lot more to the picture. The picture changes in the spring because suddenly we hear the name Forseven come out. And Forseven is a very unique situation for Nio in that they have licensed, Nio has licensed their technology, their intellectual property to Forseven. Forseven is fully owned by CYVN in Abu Dhabi. The thing is, Forseven is not a Middle Eastern company. It's a British company. It's in England. They're located in England, and they are, even though it's not a secret that Nio is invested in them, they're still running in a stealth manner, they're telling their future audience that they're going to manufacture EVs in a new way, and that new way is the Nio way, right? So Forseven, what the interesting thing about this, and this is what a lot of investors are missing, CYNV had to pay Nio major bucks to get this licensing agreement. Under this technology agreement, Nio will receive technology license fees comprising of non-refundable fixed upfront fees, non-refundable upfront fixed. That means those fees are happening in Q1. Those fees have been paid. People should keep an eye on that for the next earnings because that number will be in the Q1 earnings report. Nio gets a fixed upfront license fee plus royalties determined on the future sales of licensed products by Forseven. I would also add into that my own opinion that they are probably going to be purchasing a multitude of OEM products from Nio. It could be the motors, it could be autonomy features, it could be batteries. It will definitely be batteries because Forseven doesn't make batteries, and Nio has the best battery in the world that'll do 1,000 kilometers or 610 miles. Nothing is close to it. Tesla's at 408, and Nio is over 600. It's expensive battery, but it's a semi-solid state. But Nio and CATL are highly involved in it. Also have a company called We Lion that probably did most of the research and development on it through funding from Nio. So when you're over in England now we're over in England, and Forseven is going to be in England. People should keep in mind that over in England, you also have Lotus, which was purchased by Geely using money from Nio Capital. Geely has recently agreed to get into battery swapping with Nio. Chery has also recently said they will get into battery swapping with Nio. Add in Jack, and also Shangan, and Nio has 4 major Chinese players that are going to be involved in battery swapping. Now, why would they get involved with battery swapping? It's expensive, and it's proven to be very effective. It hasn't proven to be very profitable yet. But any of those companies decide to license battery swapping from Nio tomorrow, they start with over 2,300 stations in China, and at least 5, including Forseven, at least 5 companies with very deep pockets prepared to get involved in that in England. I would also assume that Germany and Norway are not going to be far behind. Keep in mind, Geely owns Volvo. Geely is a big operation. Shangan, CHANGAN, they are a big company with close ties to Ford and Mazda. So when we're talking battery swapping, we're talking right now that literally behemoths are starting to become interested in it. And if you saw how quick Nio put out 2,300 swap stations, I could tell you with the kind of money that's coming at them, they will easily double that in 2024, 25. Probably be talking, I think they get to 5,500 in China by 2026. And at that point, battery swapping will become very profitable. I'm gonna like to end on one last note for your viewers and you to think about. Battery swapping is going to be the wave of the future. Doesn't matter what any naysayers say, any shorts say, any Tesla people say. As a matter of fact, I'll go on record right now as saying I believe that when Tesla introduces their robo-taxis in August of 2024, there's a very good chance those vehicles will swap batteries. Why do I say that? If you saw what happened with Tesla and Hertz, Tesla and Six, you know that fixed batteries are not going to work in commercial applications. They're not going to work for rental agencies. They're not going to work for taxi agencies. They're not going to work for first responders. And they're not going to work for the military. And they're probably not going to work for commercial drivers. A matter of fact, even in the US, Ample is swapping commercial batteries already. And recently, if I'm not 100% sure. Oh, I do know who it is. Stellantis. Stellantis has made a deal with Ample in the United States. I think they're based in San Francisco. Stellantis has made a deal to get into battery swapping with Ample. Whether or not they're going to use the Nio style or whether they'll do their own, I don't know. But Nio has already completed close to 40 million battery swaps. I doubt Ample's anywhere near close to that. When you're talking about Nio, you're talking about a concept that's a proven concept. It's not something that's on the table. You're thinking about 40 million in 2 years. It's a lot of swaps, and so you can see a lot more.
Obviously,
the Envo is going to have battery swapping. The Nio Envo will have battery swapping too.
And I think there was a video the other day of the Envo actually doing battery swapping as well.
Right.
To play devil's advocate, what do you say to the people? Obviously, I'm bullish on battery swapping, but what do you say to the people who say, how is battery swapping a proven concept if it's continuously losing money for the company and deploying all of the hardware required to do these battery swapping stations is very costly?
How much money does a building make for make for a real estate investor until it's fully occupied and generating money. I mean, the whole thing about why are we here in the capital markets? We're here to attract investors to build and create value. That's the whole purpose of the capital markets. So the days of 2020 when people just say this is a good stock and the stock goes up to the moon, that's not happening. But I'll also tell people Nio priced under $5 is literally ridiculous. I've never seen a startup tech that wasn't trading at least five times sales. Nio is trading at about 1 time sales. So it's nowhere close to where it should even a beat down company. The difference between Nio is you're buying an IPO stock, an IPO price stock from a company that's clearly the technical leader in the field. Nobody has more range than Nio. Nobody has better autonomy than Nio. Nobody has better power generation. I'll go on record again as saying I believe Nio power is probably worth more than Nio in the long run. Nio power, I'm not going to tell you what I think it is because I'm not going to say it. I try to keep some trade secrets in my strategy, but I will just tell you, Nio is close to becoming what other people are in other energy fields. Nio is going to be the center of EV power. And I believe 3 years from now, it'll probably be the center of EV power in the USA as well. It may not come in as a Nio, may come in as an OMVO, may come in as another brand, because Nio is technically set up as a white label company right now. They're set up that you and I, Obi, we could go to Nio next after the Envo or the Firefly come out. We can go in there, we could go to Hafai, go into the factory and say, we want 1,000 units built and we want them to be called Obi Mars. Okay? And if we pay them, they'll deliver them. And if they deliver them, we can market them the same way. It's the same thing that you're going to see Forseven do. Forseven is going to brand, and it's going to be a Nio type product, but it's not going to be a Nio. But Nio is going to be behind it. It's going to have the same quality and the same features.
So I'm glad you went back to Forseven because that's where I was going next. Long term, how do you think Forseven has the potential to impact the margins of Nio through this licensing deal?
It's going to be huge because the thing about Forseven is they start out. Oh, here's what it is. It comes from an old saying. Some people who are born rich start out on third base, and that's how Forseven is going to start out. They're already on third base. Okay, they're starting out. They have Nio started out as a patent collection company. They collected patents for years before they went to their IPO. I think the IPO was in 2016, and Nio started out from the bottom. Forseven's not going to start out from the bottom. They're going to start out with a lot of money and a very good product. They'll be where took Nio 10 years to get, not 10 years, it took Nio like 8 years to get where they are. It's going to take Forseven 2 years to get where they're going. They'll build a factory. Right now, if you go on the Forseven-EV.com website, you'll see that they're in formation. They're hiring. They give a lot of little hints about what they're up to. They don't give away the whole thing, but again, people that have been around this industry for several years, we know what's going on, and it's big.
So do you think that over time, not anytime soon, of course, Forseven could decrease their reliance on Nio? Because we've seen Nio decrease their reliance on strategic partners like, let's say Intel, for sake. Now they're moving to
because Nio was the giver, and that when Nio, it wasn't. I think you're talking about Intel Mobileye.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the reasons they decreased they're still involved with 3 trials with Mobileye. There's one in Israel, there's one in Germany, and there's one in Michigan. So they're still involved with that. But what we're saying is that my understanding is they're not as reliant on Intel's because they're very much involved with NVIDIA and themselves. They've been using NVIDIA. If you go on the NVIDIA website and put in Nio, you'll find out just how involved Nio is with NVIDIA. And Nio is also, we know, building their own chips, but they're not going to, Neo's not going to be an Intel, an AMD,
It's not their core competency.
Yeah, it's not their core. Right, it's not their business. But what I like to tell people is Nio has a phone, and Apple just left the EV business, and we could talk about that at another time.
Okay, great. So this has kind of always been my philosophy from the beginning of, seeing all these Middle East holdings firms begin to invest in foreign electric vehicle companies or foreign auto manufacturers. We're seeing the Saudi Arabia, we're seeing them invest in Lucid, we're seeing Abu Dhabi invest in Nio. My theory on that is because obviously we know that the Middle East is cash rich. However, I am of the belief that they don't have the best technology, and so in turn, they're technology poor. And when you don't have it, you buy it. So we'll see CYVN acquiring Forseven, British automotive startup. We'll see CYVN acquiring, what is that company where they got the iStream platform from? I forget. But that technology is actually going to play into Forseven as well. And then it just came back to me, that platform that I was talking about, where is it, was Gordon Murray Technologies, where CYVN has a controlling interest in them. For Forseven, they're actually going to use the platform developed by Gordon Murray Technologies, which is the iStream platform, where it's going to reduce production costs and CO2 emissions, directly impacting their bottom line. So that just kind of goes
together well.
So that's
together well.
That just goes back to that thing I said about like the Middle East picking different like parts and different things that make sense for their companies.
But just so you know, from what I could see, Forseven is a very British endeavor.
Yes,
I mean, most of the principals in that company are from the UK. Yes. And listen, China and Asia and even Australia for years relied on American technology for their car building. And we have a new China that learned a lot from going to American colleges and universities and European universities. They've learned a lot, they learned their lesson well, and they're hard workers. And there's a lot of them. And that's where the US and Europe is at a disadvantage, because when it comes down to worker bees, it's a complex issue. You cannot get people into you will not get people into an auto factory at minimum wage. And then in some cases, and I'm pro-union person, but when you're building, Tesla's a non-union shop. I think right now Rivian is a non-union shop. Lucid's probably a non-union shop.
Is Nio non-union?
I'm sorry?
Is Nio non-union?
Nio is, I don't believe there's unions at all in China.
Okay.
I'm not an expert in Chinese law, but I believe Nio's basically like China's like a right to work state. You got a right to a job.
That makes sense.
And you got a right to fair pay. Oh, and by the way, when Nio has to lay people off, they've just laid people off. They have to go through the same channels as if they were a union. They just can't tell people you're out of work. They have to get certain benefits and certain notice and that. Again, I'm not an expert on it, but it's not a matter of just telling people to leave. Tesla's laying off so-called 10%, 10% of their workforce. They could all come back next year. They're layoffs. They didn't fire these people. They laid them off.
And William Lee disputed that as well, saying that was also a false publication about the layoff.
That was the latest
one. So you're talking about the December layoff.
He has acknowledged a certain amount of layoffs. I believe that those layoffs don't have to do with Nio. I believe it has to do with the R&D that's finished with Onvo and the R&D that's finished with Firefly, and also the production trials, etc. They probably don't need that many people now, because they're moving, now that they have a more refined product with Onvo and with Firefly, they're moving that in with the regular Nio engineers, that staff, the Nio, the Nio.
They're on a higher
trust. Now. Yeah, so that's where those people are going. And I'll tell you, as soon as the production picks up for Onvo, and That could happen this week. So a lot of people, I don't know when you're going to air this program, but the Beijing auto show is going on this week. There's going to be auto executives from all over the globe walking around that show, and not only Nio. There's dozens of great brands and great opportunities there, but you don't know if later this week anybody but Tesla, and the reason Tesla's not going to be at that show, by the way, Tesla will not be at the Beijing show. So you don't know if Geely's going to make a big announcement that they're getting involved with a certain company. A little update: GM has just the GMs that are in China. That's the Cadillac and the Buicks. They just went on the Nio charging network. I'll also tell you that when you see where Nio's booth is, Nio's booth at the Beijing Auto Show is across. I believe it's across from Chevrolet and next to Buick. For what that's worth. I imagine they're going to be doing a little chit-chatting.
There's usually always bombshells worth of news that come out of the Beijing.
Exactly. That's what auto shows are for. Geely, who owns Volvo, and Geely is a Nio partner. Geely, when Geely wanted to purchase Volvo, they went to Ford multiple times, and Ford just totally ignored them. And finally, they cornered Ford at an auto show. They walked into an auto show and said, "Hey, here's what we want to pay you." Ford looked at it and said, "Maybe that's not such a bad idea." And they sold Volvo. And Volvo has just Volvo offshot Polestar, and Polestar just went right back into Geely's hand. Geely now is running the Polestar show. So you got Geely, Polestar, Chang'an, Jack, Chery, Forseven, all on the Nio battery swapping train.
And you can buy a Polestar in America today.
Yeah.
Polestar store across from my house.
Sure. And you could buy a share of Nio stock today for under $5. But let me tell you something: the longer you wait, the less percentage. If you're along, the less percentage profit you're going to make.
Not financial advice too, by the way, guys. It's super important to do your own research and come to your own conclusions.
Right. But if for those who, when you read social media constantly, oh, this company doesn't make any profit. Okay, you can wait for profit. When Nio turns a profit, you better be ready to pay 70 plus for the stock. When Nio shows a profit, be a whole different story, and they're not that far from it. I really don't think. Again, I think there's going to be an upward surprise Q1. I could be wrong, but my money's where my mouth is.
Yeah, there's definitely blood in the streets right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, man. It's rough, tough, and tumble, but believe me, Nio's got the money to stay at the table as long till they start winning, and that's the trick. Just like if you're in Vegas, you sit down at the table. You don't have any capital, you ain't going to be there long. You have capital to stand it out. You go home a winner. It takes money to make money.
And one more point on the Forseven thing before we wrap. I don't think a lot of people are thinking about it in terms of market segmentation. So when I think of Nio, I like to think that Nio kind of plays in two different markets, predominantly the luxury vehicle market. That's where you'll find your Nio cars. The mass market, you'll see Envo and you'll see Firefly. When I look at Forseven, I kind of think of that as ultra luxury. They're looking to compete with the likes of Rolls-Royce, Bentley.
Well, if they start building ET9s there, they will be. Right now an ET9 is the role. A Nio ET9 is basically the Rolls-Royce of EVs.
It's supposed to be the Maybach SS competitor, but at the same time, that's one car.
It's a Maybach competitor.
Yeah,
it's a Maybach competitor.
That should be priced at $112K last time I checked. The pricing's always changing. That might not be current. Yeah. But I kind of look at Forseven as a company that's going to build all Maybach competitors, all Rolls-Royce.
Could be, but being Forseven hasn't announced exactly what they're going to be doing. We don't know if Forseven's going to be building Envos. They're buying technology. We don't know what technology they bought from Nio. Could be Envo, could be Firefly. It could be everything.
It was
Could be everything.
publicized that they want to compete with like Bentley and Rolls-Royce, but that could be in the plan.
Well, right, and if you read their website, they're aiming high. They're aiming high, but they're a new company, and they are promising a totally new approach. Their approach is not only the product, it's the manufacturing techniques that they plan to use. And England is not a newcomer to high tech by any way, shape, or form. A lot of great products come out of the United Kingdom, and those very smart people there. So they may be involved with the universities in UK and in Europe. Again, that's their intellectual capital, and they'll reveal it as time goes by. I'm sure by this time next year, they are probably going to have cars coming out, maybe early.
Their executive team all comes from Jaguar Range Rover as well. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, but that's another story because that just so you know, Range Rover is part of Tata, TATA, which is actually an Indian company,
I did not know that.
Yes, it is.
Actually, I did know that. I heard about that. That happened a while ago.
Here's the thing. They are going to split into 4 brands. They're going to split into, it's going to be Jaguar, Defender, Range Rover, and I don't know what the, Discovery. 4 brands, all going EV. They are in with Chery right now. Chery signed on as a Nio partner in January. Okay, so there you go. There's possibility of all of those brands going to battery swapping. The Chinese are very different than the United States and Europe. More closer to Europe than the United States. The United States basically do not cooperate between competitors. It takes them a long time to standardize things. Chinese are totally different. These guys will sit down to lunch with each other. They will party with each other. They will speak with each other. Xpeng's CEO was buying Nio stock when Nio stock was in the toilet. He publicly announced, "I'm buying Nio stock." The CEO of BYD has been in and out of the Nio plants multiple times. I'm sure William Lee has been at the BYD plant. I'm sure these guys all know each other. I'm sure they all know a lot of the players in Europe and the US. The CEO of Ford, Farley, is totally respectful of Nio. He is one guy who understands, and Mary Barr understands what Nio can do as well. Let me just say, either one of them will be perfectly happy to be at the helm of Nio. That I promise you. They'd be perfectly happy to have that technology, that workforce. Nio is the largest plant in the world. Nio is has the largest EV plant in the world, capable of up to, when they get full going, 1 million units a year. They're doing 3,000 a week, 2,000 a week. They're not even warmed up. They've probably been spending most of their time on Onvo. That's why they're not pushing Nios out the door. You know? So once Onvo, Nio, this time next year, I would say you'll be into the 30K a month range by then.
Well, that's a good note to end on, with some optimism around Nio. Marty, I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, so let's save some conversation for our next meeting. It was a pleasure to be here, Obi. Thank you for having me, and see you next time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell icon, and leave a comment down below. Your engagement really does go a long way in helping out the channel, helping the video reach a broader audience, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.